Number 27, we have a chart, looks like a scatter plot with a line of best fit in it. And on the y-axis, it's the relative housing cost, percent of national average. Well, that's defined as the average housing cost for the city divided by the national average. And I guess the numbers are in percent. Okay. And that's across the x-axis is going to be our population density, the number of people per square mile of land. Okay, so with that said, the line of best fit has the following equation: y equals 0.0125x plus 61. Which of the following best explains how the number 61 in the equation relates to the scatter plot? So let's take a look at that. The 61 here is going to be the y-intercept. Well, technically, it's the y value when x equals 0. So if we're going to take that off the chart, we first want to make sure that origin is, in fact, 0, 0 down there in the corner. That's the origin. And sure enough, it looks like it is. So our y-intercept does appear to be right around 61 on the graph, and 61 represents the relative housing cost when the population density is 0. Okay? So in 2005, the lowest housing cost in the United States was about $61 per month. No, housing cost, the relative housing cost is a percent figure in the first place. 2005, the lowest housing cost in the United States was about 61% of the highest housing cost. No, I don't think relative housing cost is divided by the highest cost. It's divided by the national average. So no, that's not correct. In 2005, even in cities with low population densities, housing costs were never below 61% of the national average. So let's see. Housing costs were never below. Well, that's not quite right, because never below is too extreme. That suggests there were never any houses that got below 61%. So that's absolutely incorrect. D, in 2005, even in cities with low population densities, which, of course, as we get to 0 population density, we're pretty low, right? Housing costs were likely at least 61% of the national average. So likely is more attributable. That was the sort of relative housing costs, or the average housing cost for the city, which is the numerator. So that is more appropriately defined as likely and at least 61% of the national average. So that seems to be correct. It looks like D is the best representation of 61 in the equation.